Okay, so we're going to go over siding, right? So if you haven't watched this video up here, I'd watch that one. But for siding, if we want to include siding, make sure we check the box, right? So that's going to now include siding in our estimation and take off. First thing we'll do is select what kind of siding we have, right? So these are the different siding we can choose from, right? So if you click board and batten, you'll see battens will come up, right? And this is where you can kind of select what you're going to use for your battens and the spacing. But if you don't have board and batten, that won't come up. Also, around where I live, builders really like to do multiple types of siding. They love doing single shakes in the gable. They love doing, board and batten and then lap siding and then shake in the gable. So if you have multiple types of siding, you just select multiple types of siding, right? And then in each section right here, you're going to be able to select what siding you're going to use for that specific section. The only thing is that you won't be able to choose the batten type there because it's just going to clog up the information. So if you have board and batten siding as one of your types of siding, select it here, right? And then whenever you select board and batten over here, right, it will calculate whatever the board and batten for this section that you've entered information into. So another thing, so if you're going to add or change siding, once again, anytime you see a plus sign next to material, if you click that, this is where you can add siding to, right? Or change the price of the siding, whatever you want, right? So we have it broken up into lap siding here, siding panels, which are, a lot of times board and batten, if you're using, hardy trim, you're going to do big, sheets of siding. Put your panels here, right? And then battens you're going to put in here, whatever you're going to use for your battens. Shingle shakes here, vinyl. You can say we also have sheathing and house wrap here as well. So make sure you input all the information. There's going to be a video about this right up here, so click that if you have any questions about this. So yeah, for example, if your siding wasn't here, you could click this. So you use cedar lap siding. It's going to be 5-inch exposure. You can get 12-foot boards. And if you can get now this section is if you can get a bundle of them, let's say you can get 25 boards for $250, right? You can do it like that. If you just have one board, make sure you just put one in this area right here, right? So it's one board for $9.70. This is 25 boards for $250. So we go back to siding, and you can see that now cedar lap siding is there, right? So now we're going to figure out how much of this siding we need, right? So we're going to go ahead and just choose multiple types of siding, actually, just to kind of go through that. So if we go over here, we can see, right, we're going to go to side one, right? So let's use this house as an example. It's going to be a simple gable house with 4 sides, right? 2 sides will be a gable, 2 sides will be a rectangle, right? So our first side, let's do our gable end, right? So that's going to be, find our shape of that side. It's going to be shape 2, right? So we put in shape 2. And then our height, if we look up here, we can see our height is not going to be measured to the peak, but to the start of our roof. So we can put in the height. So let's go back to this right here. We'll say this is 12 feet, this is 20 feet across, and this is a 12 pitch slope, right? So height will be 12 feet, width will be 20 feet, and our pitch will be 12, right? And since we have multiple types of siding, what siding is this going to be, right? So if we go back, you can see that this is lap siding. And our siding material, let's use that cedar lap siding, right? Now, if you weren't to choose multiple types of siding, right, and you just chose lap siding, you can see that you do not have to put that information in here, right? So this is where you're going to put your window and door information in to get a more accurate sort of estimation of how much siding you need, right? So we have 2 windows that are the same size, so 2 windows of type 1, and then here's a 3rd window of a different type, and we have a door. So we just input that information here. So let's do these big windows first, right? So we'll say those things are 36 inches wide, 72 inches tall, and we have two of those doors, right? And then we can say that this top window right here is going to be 36 by 36, and that's 1 window. And we'll say the door width is going to be 36 inches, door height 82, and we only have 1 door, right? So you can see if we scroll over here, we're going to need 3 bundles of that cedar lap siding for this section right here. So we can see that that's going to be $750 for that siding. And you can also kind of scroll through and see, hey, what happens if we decided to do hardy siding? Hardy siding will be a little cheaper, right? So you can kind of experiment too to see kind of what different types of siding you want to use and the different prices. So you can price that out for yourself, for your customer. Siding markup is how much extra do you want to order for cutoffs. That can be 0 if you want, right? It can be, you can select however you like to do how much extra you order for your siding. You can select that right there. And then you're going to go and do the same thing to every side, right? So, if we wanted to move on to the second side, right, we click second side. That is going to be shape 1, right? Shape 1 is just going to be our simple rectangle. So our height will be 12 feet. Let's say the width is going to be 30 feet. We're going to have 2 windows right here. So we can select, those are 36 by 72, and those are 2 windows, right? So these aren't individual windows, these are type, how many type, like window type. That way you don't have to enter, you only have to enter in the type once, right? And then you can see it's gonna add that up. But let's just, for example, let's say we have multiple types of siding, right? And that our gable end is gonna be cedar lap siding, and then this is gonna be, let's say this is gonna be board and batten, right? Let's say, like this side, we decided to do board and batten siding. We select board and batten here, and we're gonna. What are you gonna use most of the time for hardy? You're gonna use like a hardy panels. So we'll use 48 by 10. We have our windows, and we can scroll over and we can kind of see. Here's what we need. This is going to be our panels, and these are going to be our battens, right? You can see if we change the batten spacing to 16. That'll change how many battens we need, right? So for board and battens will be a separate section, and then in this section where you choose, if it's whatever you're going to be is you're going to be your main siding, right? So you can add that. If you wanted to add something here, all you would do is click this plus and say, hey, what are we going to use for our siding panels right here? And that's about it.